Hello and welcome to Center Stage. I'm Deanne Conrad, Community Relations Supervisor for the Sioux Falls School District. Center Stage is a program that we started to shine the lights brightly on some of our brightest leaders in the Sioux Falls School District and get to know them a little bit better and what their role is in the Sioux Falls School District. And we are lucky to be joined today by Dr. Teresa Boysen. Thanks for being here today as our guest. And just start off and tell us a little bit about Teresa Boysen.
Sure. Great. Thanks, Deanne. Thanks for having me here today.
You bet.
Just exciting to be part of the Sioux Falls School District and take on this new role as Assistant Superintendent of Academic Achievement. So my role is to oversee all the curriculum and assessment for the District K-12.
Well, that sounds like an easy job. I'm kidding,
I
of course.
know. But how exciting to see the new kindergartners walk in the door and then get to watch them graduate and see them move on to that next path of their life and everything in between. And so that is my new role with the Sioux Falls School District, but not new to Sioux Falls. I've been in the district 25 years. This is my 25th year. Started my career prior to Sioux Falls at Baltic.
Okay.
And so I taught third, fourth grade blend at Baltic Elementary, and I coached high school volleyball and then also taught high school art at Baltic.
Goodness.
I know. So
small school, you get an opportunity to really, have a lot of interests and be able to lead those interests as well.
That's right, and get to share all your talents. And
Yeah.
so that was fun, and spent 2 years with Baltic, but then moved back to Sioux Falls, into the Sioux Falls district, and taught at Hayward Elementary. Mm-hmm. So I taught 5th grade and 4th grade at Hayward Elementary, and then moved over to Annie Sullivan when it was 2 years old, and taught 4th grade there at Annie Sullivan for 4 years. And then after that moved out to Oscar Howe as assistant principal out there, and a great experience there. From there went to Horseman Elementary as principal, and then to Harvey Dunn for the last 12 years before moving down to IPC for my current position.
Right. So Harvey Dunn seems like most of the people who'd be watching probably know you as the leader from Harvey Dunn. But yes, you've had several stops along the way, so touched a lot of lives in that amount of time. What was special about Harvey Dunn that kept you there for 12 years?
That 12 years went really fast, and it's the community. All of my stops along the way have been in great schools, and that's the one thing I would say about the Sioux Falls School District is no matter what building you're at, you get the opportunity to work with great teachers, great families, and great students. And so that stop at Harvey Dunn was longer than any of the other ones, but it's just that community, and that you just have the opportunity to work with the staff. And we went through some changes at Harvey Dunn where we had an addition put on, we added early childhood, we had the opportunity to start Learning Adventures, our preschool program in the Sioux Falls district. And so through that 12 years, many changes made that extension of time there, and it was great. It was a good opportunity.
Great. Well, and a variety, as you said, along the way, smaller schools, larger schools, and that type of thing. And one of the things we really try to do in the Sioux Falls School District is no matter the number of students enrolled in the building, it's building that community that is so critical to the success of a child, to help them feel like they're welcomed and that they belong there. And that's really key no matter the size of the building.
That is, and when we would give tours of the building for parents looking for that next opportunity for their students, or kindergarten parents coming in for the first time, they would look at the number of students enrolled, and it would be close to 800 when you include early childhood, and they think, oh my goodness, 800 students in a school. But when you are in the school and walking around, it does not seem like there's 800, because everybody brings every student in. Every student belongs to every staff member, and it's just that welcoming community that we care about each and every student. So it doesn't feel like 800, and the 5th graders care about the kindergartners and everybody in between. So it is that small community feeling when you're in the building.
Right, that good role modeling is important.
Yes.
For the older students to the younger students and such, making them feel welcome. Well, as we're on this topic of enrollment, I know one of the things the Sioux Falls School District is beginning to talk a lot about, and the conversation will, of course, become more prevalent in our community, is the fact that we have about 1,100 more kindergarten through third graders in our schools today than we do 9th through 12th grade. So when those 9th through 12th graders move on and this group of K through 3 come through, we're going to have some needs in terms of facilities and space, and really need to have a conversation with our community about that. And I know that you've been involved in that. You have a great background with art and all of those other things, but the actual building part isn't necessarily your priority, but talking about the learning that goes on inside those buildings and maybe what the changes will look like in the future. So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. When we look to the schools of the future and our needs, and like you said, we have 1,100 more seats or students at K3 than we have seats in the high school. So where do we go? And so to start that process, we've started engaging teachers and families and community members in focus groups, just to hear from them what they see the future of K-12 education in the Sioux Falls School District, and have those get their ideas of what should it look like in elementary, and what's the ideal size of a building, and same thing in middle school and high school. And when you think about high school and the needs that they have moving on to post-secondary education and the online learning format that is out there, is it a blended learning? And those are the questions we don't have the answers for right now. And that's where we need to hear from students, we need to hear from parents and community members, and the community can give us that insight of what will the businesses need in 5 years from now, in 10 years, and some of those I'm not sure that they can even tell us what it's going to look like in 10 years in terms of technology.
Right, and so that conversation, whether it is a blended learning environment online and in-person delivery and that type of thing, that all impacts the facilities discussion, because if we were to build a new brick and mortar building, we still need to know what it would look like inside the building. And it seems like, for 100 years we've had the traditional classroom and a spot for everyone and that type of thing. And we know that learning, we are learning about how children learn. And so we have to take that into account as well. And really there is no right answer. So it's not like we can get to a prescribed right answer. The journey is very curvy right now.
It is. When you go into some of our elementary schools right now, you will see more flexible seating, where they'll have different stations around the room for them to sit in pillows or to sit on exercise balls, to lay on the floor. Yes, they have their structured time where they come back together for instruction, but then when I'm working, it's what's best for me. And so when we look at that, what is best? And, if you dream big, could it look something more like that at a high school where I have my instruction, I get my key instruction, but when it's time for me to work and do my assignments, can I go into a more free space, a coffee shop theme, and some of the kids are really ready for a change. And so it'll be fun to hear from them, and that's what we need to do, and we need to do what's best for our students in Sioux Falls.
Well, and students today, I think students forever have had opinions about things, but we do have an opportunity. The superintendent has a group of high school students that he connects with on a regular basis. We're looking at other opportunities to engage students in this conversation as well. Maybe challenging them to think outside the box. And we know that other school districts across the country are really in the same spot that we are. I don't think anyone's really found, the next best thing, but I think we're all searching for that, and that's education.
That's right, and that's what we need to do is listen, research, and find what's best for students and tap into those resources. Like you said, Dr. Maher's student cabinet, and talk to them and see what's out there. But when you look at the Big 10 companies now, instead of bringing different people in, they'll seek out to their customer base and have them do a design challenge. And we've talked about that. Do we have those kids do a design challenge and dream big, and then we can hear from them their dream bigs, and then, of course, we have to reality.
Scale it.
Exactly.
I'm pretty certain there will not be a pool or a trampoline park inside any of our facilities. Those are great athletic options, but not within the walls of the school.
That's exactly right. So just to hear from them and dream big, and it will be fun to see and have their voices heard in the process.
Right. Well, that's just one little piece of many things that you're working on right now, and curriculum is across the board. We do a variety of curriculum reviews, and once we adopt a curriculum, then we go back and evaluate it. So there's a lot happening in the actual book or technology that we're choosing. Walk us through that process a little bit. And so when we talk about adopting a curriculum, what does that actually mean to the person who's watching this?
Right. So when we start that curriculum process, we bring a team of the stakeholders together. So it's community members, parents, university staff, our staff, and we really go through the philosophy behind, if we're looking at social studies. We look at the standards, what are we currently using, and what do we need to move forward. And right now we're in a 7-year cycle, so we know that if we adopt some new curriculum, our students are going to use that for 7 years. And so how can we make the best decision to move forward? And it's a 2-year process, so we start with the stakeholder meetings, and then we move through and get into our curriculum study groups and review the curriculum once we decide which standards we need to meet at which grade levels. And we have grade level teams, so we have elementary, middle school, and high school teams reviewing those. And we move that forward. We hear from publishers. We look at technology, and that's the biggest part, is all that technology embedded in online resources for our students, because all ages have online resources now, and that's becoming more and more important for our students, and that our capabilities within the district can also support those. And once they make a curriculum selection, we usually pilot that for 6 to 9 months to make sure it's a curriculum we want to go with, and then it's adopted. We bring it to the board for adoption. They approve it, we can purchase a curriculum, and then we have to do the curriculum writing with our teachers, and then also the professional development that would go along with that. So it's a 2-year process before it even gets into the hands of the students. And then we evaluate it. So if we had a curriculum adoption starting this fall, we evaluate that, and we would report back to the board just to make sure that they're up to date with how that process is going and how is it working for our students.
Right. I think a lot of times, and you mentioned that professional development, the community hears, the students are off today, there's in-service. Well, in-service is sort of a difficult word to define, but the professional development that our teachers would need in order to successfully use the curriculum happens oftentimes in those in-service, on those in-service days. So it is a critical day for us. Your children may be off, but this is the opportunity for our teachers to really understand and effectively use that curriculum.
And your question's very timely, because we just came off yesterday with it for elementary and middle school, had an in-service day yesterday, and they were working on our English language arts. That was a new adoption this fall, so new curriculum for K-12 in the English language arts. So they spent yesterday working with their grade level team in their buildings to make sure that they're ready for that next stage, and to refine some of their practices and look ahead. And it was really a great opportunity with the instructional coaches right there alongside the teachers, with the building administration and the district administration, to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're moving together. And that's what we want to do, is making sure that no matter what building I'm at, my teachers receive the same professional development, so we can move forward together. And the students receive the same education.
Absolutely. That's so critical. We have a lot of mobility in our school district where children, for whatever reason, are moving across town with families or what have you. And so we want to make sure that the education that a child is learning in school A, if they move, is the same as they would be getting in school B, or at least very, very close in the timelines and the guidelines of when it's taught and how it's taught, that all of that is consistent, which is difficult to do when you have 35 different school buildings.
That is. And that's the part of the work of the curriculum teams. They go through, and when they're writing that curriculum, they have pacing guides. And on those pacing guides, it directs them of where you should be at this point. And we know that it's different. Every school is a little bit different, or each classroom is different, even within that building, and what my students need. And so that's a guide for them, but it's also to keep us on track in case I move across town. So that way I know that I don't miss a big chunk of my learning. So those pacing guides are essential for our staff, and they do appreciate that, and it's what's best for kids.
Absolutely. So everybody stays at a similar pace.
That's right.
Not necessarily the same pace, but a similar pace. You've been in this role now for just a couple of months, but is it what you thought it was going to be? There's a lot going on. The wheels are constantly moving.
It is, and it's exciting. And when people ask, okay, how are you feeling? It is exciting, and I am really loving this position. The part that I like is the variety that goes with it and the scope. So one day I'm working with elementary curriculum, the next day I'm working with the Department of Education on creating the next path for students, or working with the universities with student teachers or mentors, or looking at how do we get our students from high school into Southeast Tech or onto the university setting. And so the variety of the job is what keeps it exciting.
Absolutely. No shortage of work or excitement there.
That's right.
One of the other exciting programs that we've implemented recently is Code to the Future, the computer science immersion schools at 3 buildings. That's Hayward, Lowell, and Annie Sullivan. And that's I haven't witnessed it myself, but just in having conversations with people, it's really something that our kids are latching onto and loving. Talk a little bit about that.
They are. Code to the Future has been a great addition to those 3 elementary buildings. We're coming up on the end of their first 9 weeks. At the end of their first 9 weeks, we have what's called an epic build, so they can showcase their hard work. This first 9 weeks, they've been working with Scratch, and it's an online program, so they can develop storylines. So when I was out at one of the buildings, they had talked about a science topic. So in science, they were talking about ecosystems. So then they took and they drew a story map with the ecosystems, and then they put it into Scratch, and they developed a storyline, which really is a video game. So they created a video game, and their little sprite is their character, and that sprite is moving, it's talking, it's working through different levels. And so all the things that go behind the scene to make that little sprite move is incredible, but it's demonstrating for the teacher what they learned through that concept. And so it's another way for them to demonstrate their learning. And so that first epic build's coming up, and now our next challenge is these 5th graders are moving on to middle school. And so looking at the majority of the students will go to either Whittier or George McGovern, and then we have a small pocket of students at Lowell that would go to Edison. But we're looking at creating a computer science pathway for students that would take them from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade and beyond, and moving Code to the Future into the middle school model, but then those students being ready to take the AP computer science test or class at 9th grade, moving into high school. I know. So when you think about that, they're programming and ready for AP computer science as 9th graders. And so there's a lot of learning between 5th grade and 9th grade, but they will be ready. So our challenge is to make sure they're ready for that 9th grade, but then also to look from 9th grade to 12th grade, and how do we create that computer science immersion pathway for students, so when they get into high school, they can work with the universities on dual credit. They can work on with the universities to earn certificates in computer networking, cybersecurity, and walk out with something in hand that they could be employed right away out of high school, or they could go on to STI, to their computer networking program, or on to DSU for cybersecurity. And so that's the partnerships that we're working with right now, STI and Dakota State University, on creating that pathway for students that takes them from kindergarten all the way beyond. And so that's the exciting part for all our students.
Right. I love the example that you gave. So we're learning about science concepts, the ecosystems, and that would be something that we're learning about in every school. And then some schools, students may be doing a poster or something to demonstrate their learning.
That's
so
right.
Computer science immersion is allowing those students, giving them the tools to code something in the background to create a visual demonstration. Right. Some kids might be doing a PowerPoint, in other buildings or what have you. Those are all great options and demonstrations of learning. But the computer coding, what we really like about it is the critical thinking skills that it's teaching students. So maybe talk about those hard to grasp concepts and how this is helping kids get to the bottom of those critical thinking skills.
It is, and it's the critical thinking, it's the perseverance and the grit that goes with it, because I can create a poster, and that's a comfort zone for me. I can easily demonstrate that skill. I've done it multiple times, but when I have to apply something through coding, it's that I have to go back and I have to problem solve, because, okay, so my characters didn't move the way I wanted them to, or they didn't speak at the right time. So I have to problem solve and push through that, and to make the outcome. In my mind, I know what the outcome is, but how do I work through that process to get there? And so it really is fun. One of the students, when I was out in one of the buildings, he was, to demonstrate his learning, he was building an escape room. And so he's building an escape room, and his
what grade are we talking here?
Second grade.
Oh, second grade, of course. I mean, most second graders are building escape rooms these days.
And he could get his character to move, but then it hit a wall, and he couldn't get past that, and he started to shut down, and through the teacher just went over and kneeled down and said, okay, tell me what you're thinking. They talked through it, and through that short conversation, he was able to, he could correct his error, but he could go back and try it again, and it worked. And then you could see that excitement on his face. And so that's the key with that computer science immersion, is just the hard thinking and the perseverance and the grit that they need to really be able to work through to demonstrate their learning.
And those skills, obviously, once a student has that perseverance and has seen the success turn, a challenge turn into a success, hey, that feels pretty good. I know how to do this. That's right. You're building confidence in the child, that no matter if it's, building this escape room, or if it's a math problem or another challenge that child has, that they do have the skills to be able to get to the bottom of that and make it a success. And
that resiliency, and being able to apply that even for the elementary kids right now out on the playground.
Yeah.
I have a problem, okay, so that's not quite right. How am I going to approach it? And can I apply that to real life skills? And so helping them to work through some of those in all parts of their life.
Yeah, can't wait to see, as those kids get older and become more of the deep thinkers.
That's right.
All the problems they will solve.
That's right.
They'll probably be the ones that tell us what the school of the future looks like.
I hope so.
Well, we're coming up on the end of our time. Any other thoughts, things that you think the public should know about the Sioux Falls School District? Oftentimes there's a perception out there of, my children go to school and we like the school, and that's pretty close to my heart, or what have you, or my kids are gone, I I don't really pay attention to schools,
Yeah.
but what would you tell the people?
Yep, whether they have students in school, students coming up on the age where they're going to enroll them in school, or if their children are gone. I would just say that Sioux Falls District offers many opportunities for students and just great buildings, and I encourage them to get out and just to see what we have to offer and talk to people. All the buildings that I have had opportunity to be in with this position now, getting into all of them, we have fantastic buildings. They look great.
Mm-hmm.
We have quality teachers in all of them. We have great administration, but just that support system for their child, no matter who they are. If you're just moving into Sioux Falls School District, tour your school, meet your teachers, meet your principals, meet your counselors. It's a great place to be.
Yeah.
And with the City of Sioux Falls and the Sioux Falls School District, you don't get a better education.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's a
really,
great place.
Really, with all of the positive things that are going on in the economy of Sioux Falls and the growth and just the forward thinking in the city of Sioux Falls, that same kind of forward thinking and such is going on in our school buildings. So our partnership between the city and also the school district is pretty important in making it a successful go.
It is. It's a great K-12 education and beyond. And so as a Sioux Falls homeowner, you can put faith in your tax money that you are getting a good product for your tax dollar.
And we're getting leadership by Dr. Teresa Boysen. So
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here today on Center Stage. We hope you've enjoyed our conversation today.